Hello friend, this is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com, and for this Reseller Friday I want to talk to you about how you must stop making excuses and start taking more of the right actions. I hear people regularly in the resale community give excuses for why they're not doing what they could do. I had one reseller telling me about how, I can't really work very hard because I just get so distracted, and so I do better when there's not as much distractions. And yes, of course you do better if there's less distractions, but the distractions this individual was listing were Facebook, and they would get a text and they would go check their phone, and they were constantly getting distracted. It's like, okay, turn your phone off. And the excuse was, well, what if there's an emergency? If there's an emergency, nobody needs to call you. They call 911. You're not first responder, so you're a reseller. Stop making excuses. You're not that important. You're not that needed. If some loved one has some problem, 911 will be called. When you're done with your listing, you can check your phone then. And there's almost a 99.999 to infinity chance that nothing important was missed. Turn your phone off, or if you have to leave it on, you think it's so important, put it in another room. I have on my phone so I don't get distractions. I have Do Not Disturb turned on. I only have a few people in my contact list who their calls and texts go through. All the rest of them I don't hear any notification of. Facebook messages, these kind of things, don't hear a message of. Don't care. Those are not important. Those do not warrant even a second of my consideration to glance over at my phone to see what the message is about. Not important. I can check those things later when I've done with the business of the day. But I have seen so many resellers just kind of stay stagnant. They're not doing terrible, but they're never growing because they're not getting past this excuse-making phase and taking more of the right actions. And the times when they do take more action, they're doubling up on the wrong thing. Listen, if you can't get sales, your sales are down, your sell-through rates are low, the last thing you need to be doing is doubling up on your inventory and sourcing. You're just getting double the inventory that doesn't sell, double the inventory that is going to take a long time to finally get around to selling, and doubling your expense as far as sourcing goes. 0 times 100 is still 0. So if you're getting 0 results right now, the solution is not to go buy more items that you can list and don't sell. You need to be buying better items. You need to be checking. I can't tell you how many resellers will glance at stuff and they get this ego and pride thing like, oh, I shouldn't be looking stuff up. I know, I got it all figured out. Okay, that may be great for some social media video. You can pat yourself on the back about how you know everything and you don't have to look anything up. But in the real world, I'd rather look dumb and look up something than just go, well, I think this is all right. I don't need to look it up. And then you're buying some item that's a 5% sell-through rate. This is a business. You run it like a business. If you have to go check sold listings, which you should, especially at first, and you haven't sold that item before, you need to be checking sold listings. Don't make excuses like, well, I got it figured out. If you did, your sales would be better. And there are people who have sold thousands and thousands and thousands of items, and they can look at an item and immediately know this is worth picking up. They know the sell-through rate, or at least a rough approximate of the sell-through rate, because they've done it enough. But until you get to that point, there's no shame in having to look up an item to see whether it has a good sell-through rate, whether the market is buying this at a profitable amount for you, considering the amount you're going to pay for the item. Because listen, you can tell yourself, oh, you got it all figured out. That's just another excuse. It's an excuse not to do the research you need to do. And yes, you should do the research before you even get into a store to be doing any sourcing. But if you're new, you don't know everything, you can look up every single item you touch in the store. That's all right. This is not some competition like, well, you gotta be more macho than somebody else by not looking up anything because I don't need to. That's a crutch. No, it's not. It's your data. And if you don't know, then you don't know, and that's all right. Go look up an item, research it, make sure it's actually worth selling, and then you buy it if it is. If it doesn't meet your metrics, it doesn't look right, you do not buy it. I don't care if it's a good price. I don't care if it's 1 penny. I couldn't tell you how many times I have gotten items for literally free and thought, oh, this is a great idea. I got a bunch of free items. They're not worth listing. There'd be like 2 or 3 out of the 100 items that I got for free that were worth listing, and the rest are worth a few dollars, and it's literally not worth listing. It literally wasted my time. It cost me more money to go through them than any amount of money I could possibly make from the 2 or 3 that were worth listing. That's another excuse people will come up with. Well, I don't want to spend too much money on my sourcing. Those free items you're getting from people, or you're going from a garage sale or something and real cheap or whatever, sometimes those cost you more money in the long term than just paying the full price at a thrift store for a good quality item that's going to resell for a large multiple of what you paid. And you have to get past this mentality of, oh, I gotta keep my listing goal. Yes, you should have a listing goal. Yes, you should keep it. But I'd rather list 5 items a day. If I had a 10 item a day listing goal, for example, I'd rather list 5 items that are good quality items that will sell quickly than list 100 items that are going to take years to sell for low dollar amounts. Why would you put all the effort and time and money into something that's not worth listing? Just because it could sell or has a potential to sell does not mean it is worth listing in the first place. You need to set some standards for yourself and not deviate from those standards. And you need to take more action, but the right action. Stop making excuses. Stop telling yourself, I get distracted easily, and then you don't do anything about it. You just keep getting distracted easily. If your phone's a distraction, turn it off. If you're so important that somebody's going to have to magically call you, put do not disturb on everything except for your phone calls. And those certain select people that might need to call you if there's some drastic emergency. And make sure they're not people who would just call you randomly to talk about nothing. Make sure you set boundaries with people. Instead of making excuses, well, my friend called and I haven't talked to him in a while. Set a standard with your friends that they know that during this time I am working and I cannot be contacted unless it's an emergency. But it's not going to be an emergency. If it's a real emergency, they're going to call 911. They're not going to call you. You're not the first person they're going to call if there's an emergency. These excuses don't get you anywhere. All they do is keep you where you are. They keep you stagnant. They keep you stuck. And you're not going to do as good as you could do. I say this over and over again, but reselling is one of the easiest businesses possible. You're literally taking stuff that somebody got rid of or didn't want anymore and turning around and selling it for a great profit. And unlike decades ago, when it was much more difficult as far as knowing for a certainty what items might sell or not, you have tremendous amounts of data available to you. You got Amazon sales rank. You got eBay sold listings. You can literally know this item has sold this many times in the last 90 days, or this item has a sales rank on Amazon, which indicates it sells 100 of them every week. That's a huge amount of data for you to know I can sell this item based on how many people are already selling it, their prices they're asking, the amount I can pay for it, the amount I'm going to ask for it. There's a tremendous amount of data. The days of excuse making, the days of, well, you know, it's so difficult to find good quality items, then look more. That's an excuse I hear all the time. Well, you know, in my area, we just don't have very much. Then drive. Go further. I know people that go hours. They literally drive hours one way, multiple hours, to get to a place to get quality items that they can resell. Just because you want to stay within a 10-mile radius of your house is no justification for why you aren't doing as well as you could, because you can go further out. There are options available to you. You can start taking more action. If you're sourcing and you're sourcing in your area and you can't find good stuff in your local area, the act of taking more action, more of the right actions, would be going further out, going to additional cities. You might have to drive hours, but that's better than not having the quality items you want and not being able to make the money that you want to make because you aren't putting in the effort. You're just making excuses. And yes, nobody wants to drive a few hours to go sourcing. Of course not. But if that's what you have to do, then you do it. Because you are a man or woman of character and you do the things you need to do, whatever it may be, you're going to do it so you can get the results you want. My friend, I just want to encourage you today. When you start to utter an excuse, stop it and immediately counteract that excuse with something tangible that you can do right here and now that will get you the results you want and will cast off that foolish excuse so you can start working toward taking more of the right actions. My friend, I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.